Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Today is the day that we're holding our Canadian virtual regional meeting. And today is September 11th, and it is 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And I would like to introduce you to our MC today, Kara Neustadter, connecting with us from Manitoba. Alberta,
Thanks.
Excuse me.
No, you were right, Manitoba.
Manitoba, okay, thank you.
It's exciting to be part of this Canadian meeting. I've gone to a number of the American virtual meetings and I find them inspiring, but it's lovely for all of us to be together. I'm going to warmly welcome our elder, Ruth Cardinal de Ubiera, who's going to help us start our meeting in a really good way.
Good morning, and thank you. You pronounced my name beautifully. I'm known in this territory as Kokum Ruth, which is Grandmother Ruth to a lot of people. I'm a member of the Saddle Lake Cree Nation here in our territory of Treaty 6. And I'm coming to you from my kitchen in Amiskwaci Waskaigan, which is known in English as Beaver Hills House, traditional name that is known today as Edmonton in Alberta and in Canada. It's a beautiful morning here, and I'm honored to have been asked by Nadia, one of your members. She presented protocol so that I could say a prayer this morning, and it's my honor to do so.
Thank you, Elder Ubiera. I really appreciated the reminder that we're all connected, especially when we're feeling so isolated because of the pandemic. I next would like to invite Laurel, who will help us acknowledge the lands that we're meeting across today.
Hi, thank you. My name is Laurel, and I'm a mixed race settler from European and East Asian ancestry on the Syilx and Similkameen territories in what's known as the Okanagan and Similkameen area of southern BC. And I'm honored to have been invited to lead an acknowledgement of the traditional and unceded territories that we all live, work, and thrive on. More than just a token gesture, in acknowledging the land, we pay respect to the historical and intact systems of culture, language, and relationship with land and its inhabitants that predate the arrival of any colonists and still exist today. It's also an acknowledgement of the discriminatory colonial practices that have a lasting legacy and continue to create barriers for Indigenous people and communities. It's an opportunity for those of us who are settlers from various backgrounds to acknowledge our participation in such colonial practices, to recognize our privilege, to reckon our behaviors and the historical colonial actions of our predecessors, and to seek to be in right relationship with Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island. So as I said, I'm an uninvited guest on the traditional and unceded territories and home of the Syilx and Similkameen people. And on behalf of the organizers, I'd like to invite each of you to share the territories that you are joining from in the group chat. So you can go ahead and do that now. If you don't know, a good place to start is by looking at native-land.ca. Thank you.
Laurel, thank you so much for leading that. That was a beautiful land acknowledgement, and we really appreciate hearing from everyone that has shared, and please continue to share in the chat if you'd like. My name is Sarah Bursach, and I'm NADA's executive director, and I reside in the US. And I would just also like to take a moment for a special remembrance of the significance for the US of today's date, as well as for the world. I will just, I'd like to share that. So today marks the 20th anniversary of the attack on the World Trade Centers In New York City yesterday and today, there have been a series of events commemorating this anniversary. In the day after the attack, NADA services began to be offered at St. Vincent's Hospital, located at Ground Zero, and they continued for a whole month. Over 1,000 treatments were provided in that month, and shortly thereafter, the Red Cross funded 7 years of NADA services through the World Trade Center Healing Services Program. Our NADA trainer, Wendy Henry, and her group crew has organized ear acupuncture services today at an event that's going on not far from St. Vincent's Hospital, about 4 blocks. And one thing she told me yesterday in attending some of the other activities going on is she said that the feel of this anniversary event is very different than past years, and there's a greater emphasis on how to live as a humanitarian being. And the one question she said that she feels keeps coming up is, how can we be there for each other as a humanitarian community? I think that's a really important thing to recognize as our world seems to be moving towards very regular disruptive events, disasters, that we have to really begin to embrace the connection and interconnectedness of us as a humanitarian community. So I thought it was really beautiful that she shared that. And in the flyer that you see here, hopefully you can see the group crew, community relief and rebuilding through education and wellness, right in the middle there. And so they are doing the ear acupuncture right now as we speak. I just wanted to invite us to hold a space of quiet and silence and remembrance. And I'll help us with this to begin. Thank you so much. I am going to move us now into the first presentation of our meeting today. And what we're going to share with you is an overview of Canadian membership by province and territories. So you have a better idea of really how does NADA live and exist within Canada. This was put together with our planning group. And I just want to recognize our planning group now as well. There were a number of us that in about a month put this meeting together. So I just want to recognize Dorothy Spivak from Quebec, Kara Neustadter, your MC, Julianne Naylor from Ontario, and our membership coordinator, Tanea Watts. And myself. So we had, and there were some other folks also who kind of joined into some of our meetings. So we really focused a lot on spreadsheets and names and places and where people are, because we also had to get familiar with that reality as well. And I'm going to show you the breakdown of the actual numbers shortly, but I think it's helpful to have a visual of this as well. And so you can see that Ontario has by far, I'm being told I'm still on the slide.
Yeah, I think maybe you're sharing a different
Screen?
the incorrect screen. Yeah, I would unshare and maybe reshare.
Thank you. Is that right?
Yes. NADA members in Canada?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yep. Yep.
I'm like advancing all on my own here. Okay, so it's pretty dramatic and impressive. The actual number is 684 for Ontario, for how many NADA providers have been trained there, and Nova Scotia comes in second, and then British Columbia third. So those are the top 3 provinces. What's much more interesting to look at is not the actual numbers themselves of, you'll see the darker blue is members all time, the lighter blue is current as of August 1st of this year. What we really want to see is the actual percentages as they relate to each other. So I'm going to stay on this slide for a little bit, just to give you some time to take this information in. Again, it's basically the same. It's all the same information as in the previous. So members all as of August 1st versus members all time. The percentage then is the ratio. So how many people are currently providing NADA in any given province or territory? Here's the fun of doing data work. Saskatchewan, wow, 50%, 1 out of 2. So, that's where data can get a little bit skewed. What is a bit more realistic is seeing that actually the greatest number or greatest activity of NADA is happening in Prince Edward Island, 38%. Another interesting statistic to notice for Nova Scotia in the second table, you can see a lot of members trained over time, but only 9 currently practicing. So that province has the lowest statistic. And I'll share a little bit more when we get to regulations why that is. So as you can see, we don't have any members or ever any members trained in, you know what, I screwed up those stats, I'm sorry. The Yukon and the Nunavut have 0 members. Northwest Territories, I will fix this for when the slide deck goes out because I moved those, but I didn't move the data. My apologies. So Northwest Territories has 2 people, 9 members all time. Here's this, I was really shocked by this because I hadn't actually run this before. There's a total of 18% of Canadian members practicing NADA at this time of who have been trained, and it's the exact same percentage for the US. And I most certainly expected it to be higher here. I don't know why. That's just my America centrist view. I apologize for that. That was my expectation, but I was shocked that it's like literally the same percentage. So I think that this information can be very useful in many ways in thinking about strategies for growing NADA in areas, but also in understanding why is it that maybe it's not quite as robust. And that brings us here, which is just an overview of where can NADA be practiced and by whom. There are 4 provinces that regulate the practice of acupuncture, and as such, none of those 4 provinces at the moment have any kind of legal exemption allowing an AcuDetox specialist to practice. However, Ontario does have that. It has a special law that allows for a NADA provider to practice in a healthcare setting. And that is a fairly recent law. In the past decade, it was passed. So prior to that, I believe that it was unregulated. And then the rest of the provinces and territories are not regulated and restricted. And then here's that little additional piece of information about Nova Scotia. Also in the past decade, that there had been a change in administration, change in leadership at the Nova Scotia Health Authority, and it really sort of within months went from a very actively provided treatment to virtually no treatment at all. And so in fact, our first regional meeting in person in Canada happened in 2018, and we had it in Nova Scotia to try to revive some of that activity. And we did have a training and it was excellent. But I think it definitely will need some more support and influx of energy to make that happen. And later on in our meeting, we'll hear from somebody in Nova Scotia who shares also a little bit about it. So that is what we wanted to share with you about statistics. And I guess we'll move on to a report on NADA training in Canada with Julianne Naylor.
Sorry, I'm just unmuting myself here. Here we go. Hi, everybody. I am Julianne. I am in Toronto, Ontario. I'm a NADA trainer here, and I'm also your Canadian rep on the board. And so I'm just going to give like a brief report. We tried to get a hold of as many registered trainers as we could just to have an idea of what's been kind of transpiring in Canada, specifically with trainings. And of course, as you all know, with COVID, it's been very difficult to continue practicing and doing trainings. But I'll give you the brief overview of those who I have talked to. Some have been able to continue doing individual sessions, but not necessarily trainings per se. So they have been able to, specific private healthcare practitioners, give seeds, do needles, things like that. As we go through each territory and province later, I know some people will be able to give a little bit more information on what they've been doing. Specifically for trainings, though, I'm just going to kind of debrief some of the few that have been able to practice a little bit. I know Carolyn from BC. Hi, Carolyn, by the way. She has 2 upcoming trainings, so that is good. So like herself and other people, things have been on pause, but now that things are opening up a little bit, some trainings are coming up. Lori, I just want to, sorry if it looks like I'm looking away, guys. I'm just looking at my computer here. So Lori in Ontario is holding one next month. She's been able to continue individual sessions rather than group, obviously, because of restrictions. And specifically that they started training in Nova Scotia, which Sarah had just kind of alluded to, that it has been pretty slim and there hasn't been too much energy and things going on there. But it sounds like there is some training happening and specifically developing protocols for veterans, which is really great. Charlotte in Quebec currently there's been a pause, and I'll invite any of you guys if you do want to jump in and expand a little bit more on it. But in Quebec has wanted to start doing stuff in the hospitals, but wasn't able to, but has been able to continue in emergency shelters, which is really great. And then specifically, they're starting a pilot project. I want to get the name right, so I'm just going to pull it up here. Which is okay. So they're doing a training and they're developing a pilot project with the I'll say it in French, the Regroupement des Ressources Alternatives en Santé Mentale du Québec. So it's 100 centers in all of Quebec and specifically services mental health, which is really great. So Quebec is doing some really cool things, slowly but surely. And then I can speak to myself here in Toronto. We've also been on pause and haven't been able. I got trained to be a trainer a couple years ago. I actually went to the Nova Scotia training. And then, of course, as soon as we came back within that same year, COVID started to happen. And so we had to put everything on pause. But we just recently got good news that here in the hospitals, I'm able to start trainings again in the next few months. So we're currently planning some trainings to get our groups back going again. So I'll be able to run a few trainings here in Toronto, which is really exciting. Otherwise, I will if anybody does want to jump in, if there are some trainers here, like many had to be put on pause. But if there is anybody that I'm missing or I wasn't able to get a hold of before this meeting, if you do want to pop on right now, we can give you the platform and just share if you have been doing any trainings in the last 2 years, and specifically if you have, what have you been doing? So I can open up the floor if anybody wants to jump in or expand on what I've already shared.
Hi, Julie. It's Stephanie from BC. And I was fortunate to become a trainer kind of during COVID. So I had one booked April of 2020 and it got canceled. And so I just paused. I chose not to do the Zoom route, but hopefully I haven't picked the date, but this November I plan to do kind of reinvent that one in April. So excited about that.
Yeah, and it's, I think for a lot of people, I think, well, at least some of the trainers, they've been mentioning that they're hoping to develop something virtually as well. So I think you and a few other people are hoping to get something off the floor. And today that hopefully we can talk about, you know, what are some of the barriers, or at least what's worked for people if they have done some virtual groups as well. So that's great. Anybody else?
Yeah, sure. Hello. Bonjour. I would say that the pandemic wasn't the worst barrier we have here in Quebec. So we just went on going on and doing things, and the adaptation of the pandemic wasn't the worst thing we had to to figure out here.
And Charlotte, you're like the forerunner. I hear you're doing so many amazing things in Quebec, which is really great. So I know we're going to hear a little bit more from you as well afterwards. So looking forward to it.
And my name is Brian, and I live in Vancouver, and I'm also a trainer, but I haven't been doing any training since before COVID. And just recently thinking about, have had a few students, potential students, contact me, so just trying to figure out how that's going to work. Probably, and we have been doing treatments through most of COVID. Like there was about a 3-month period where we stopped doing treatments, but and then since then things have been back to pretty much normal. So just trying to figure out the next stages, and as you say, maybe thinking about Zoom presentations or more in-person training, but just trying to wrap my head around that right now.
Yeah, the great news is that so many people have been able to do the at least like the needles and seeds individual sessions, you know, so that's been great that we've been able to practice. But I know it really put a halt on trainings because so many people couldn't get the in-person experience, right? So definitely. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Shannon, and I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And I just recently, literally just graduated from university. My studies had to be extended due to COVID. I've been a member of NADA now for 2 years. It's one of the reasons that I got into acupuncture in the first place, because it is regulated in Alberta here. I am so interested in a training. I have been waiting to get licensed so that I can go for training. And I just want to let you know that I'm super excited. I'm willing to travel as far as like BC to get trained from Alberta. I'm willing to do Zoom. I'd prefer an in-person, but I just want to say that I'm excited about this forum because it gives me an idea of where those opportunities are and how that would possibly look. So anybody who's interested, like Brian, you were mentioning from Vancouver, I have a saved up WestJet ticket that I need to use by December. So, so if you got an in-person one, I'm your gal. Okay. So I just wanted to interject that. Thank you.
No, thanks for sharing. That's what's so great about this meeting too is, and we are going to have a little bit of a time and space for talking about, you know, how do we cast bigger vision for all across Canada and be able to connect as trainers and connect as members. So I'm glad that it's stimulating some excitement. We have a few, I think we have like, 2 minutes left, a minute left, maybe, if anybody else wants to jump on. And then if not, we'll continue moving forward.
Yeah, I'm over on the East Coast, and it seems like everybody else is so far away. And just the problem I'm having here is, first of all, when our chief shuts us down, he shuts the whole community down. So our building was basically off limits to staff and clients, majority of the pandemic. Thankfully, when the restrictions lifted, we were able to bring in day clients. We're normally a residential facility, and so I was able to do acupuncture on a regular basis. And now, because of the pandemic and social distancing and being on the East Coast, the Atlantic region, we kind of utilize all the different provinces. And if you heard in the news, New Brunswick and Newfoundland and Labrador and PEI in New Brunswick all don't seem to be on the same board, so they don't seem to be making their decisions unanimously. So we're having problems in requiring clients from other province, and that's our clientele. So what we've been doing is we just basically doing inpatient day programming with just the local First Nation communities around my area. So that would include Red Bank, which is 20 minutes away, Burn Church, which is 45 minutes away, Pabineau, which is an hour away, Eel River Bar, which is an hour and a half away, Big Cove, which is an hour away, and Fredericton, which is 2 hours away. So having that geographical region is kind of hard on our clientele. We're normally a 10-bed facility, and we haven't been able to take any residents in at all. So it's been basically a day program, and we under new management, which means that we're no longer a 24/7 facility. We operate between Monday and Friday.
I think I noticed there was about 35 or 6 folks. So I think everyone's back from the breakout rooms. I sure enjoyed that opportunity just to get acquainted with some of the other ADSs in the meeting. So thanks for building some time into the day for that. I'm really looking forward to the next part of our morning, which is a panel discussion that's going to include comments from Laurel, Nadia, and Carrie, just to talk about NADA within First Nations communities and some of the considerations and the work that they're doing with their people.
Laurel, we'd love to have you begin, and I can stop the share, and then we can be looking at you.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Some of this actually follows some of what we were just talking about in our small group chat, but since 2004, I got my ADS in 2004, and at that time, I was working with Les, that some of you may know at Vancouver Detox and Day Talks, and from there branched out to working with a number of different nonprofit organizations and grassroots groups and First Nations organizations and communities in the downtown east side and around the Lower Mainland. And then I moved to where I am now. A lot of my work moved into the southern interior area of BC. And in recent years, I've started working more and more with First Nations communities and with the FNHA, which is in BC, the First Nations Health Authority. And then COVID happened, and so that work became a lot of that work was canceled. But I continued to work with the bands that are just in my direct area. And just this past year, I mean, we all know what's been going on in terms of the residential school graves that were found, and in this region, I mean, I'm in the Interior Health region, and Kamloops residential school was the first 215, and it really shook the community that I live in. I was really, really deeply impacted and continues to be by that. And then we started seeing the churches burning, and despite what people feel about that, what I was seeing on this side was a lot of elders. Some of the elders that I know well that are I'm connected to through the community, through family, through my work. One of the churches burnt on it's her family land, and she watched it burn down, and she's not been the same since. And a lot of that work, I mean, a lot of that, yeah. And then we had the wildfires in BC, and I mean, some of those fires are still burning. The biggest one is still burning. And so homes, I know people who lost their homes, entire communities have been lost. Everybody knows about Lytton. There are others. My partner's families, where they live, they lost, you know, some of those family members lost their home and their store, and so it's really been a doozy of a year out here. So I've been working with, some of the folks out here, like on an individual level, on a community level. We've been reaching out. I've been working with some acupuncturists in this region. That work is ongoing right now, in fact. So we're reaching out to some of those communities to coordinate them with acupuncturists. And some of them have never done this work before, but they just happen to live in the region. So there's some, you know, in Vernon area, and so on, and just getting them connected, making those connections. So it's really happening on the fly and trying to organize it in a better way. A lot of these acupuncturists, they have the NADA training through school, but they're not registered with NADA yet, and So we're talking about how can we get that happening quickly. So we're starting to self-organize in a grassroots way on that. So that's one thing. And then kind of alongside with that, I've been talking a lot with a friend of mine who's also a well-known Indigenous facilitator and educator in BC. And so we've been talking about creating some kind of a training that my goal is that this training can coexist and integrate with existing training. So there's already NADA training. There's the SANYAS ICS training, the Indigenous Cultural Safety training. Those things already exist. I want to create a training that will integrate with those for acupuncturists that want to work with First Nations communities or Indigenous folks in BC, and maybe they don't have that experience or those connections. Of course, in acupuncture school, we're not getting cultural safety training. We're not getting trauma-informed care training, or even the conversations. And so at the same time in BC, we have MSP, our public medical services plan, that covers acupuncture a limited number of times a year and a limited dollar amount, but it does cover anybody who's status First Nations. A lot of people that work for the bands, they have their own private insurance plans that cover acupuncture as well, but they're living in communities where there are no acupuncturists, or there's acupuncturists they're not connected. So this is the bridge that some of us have been talking about, that we're hoping to make. And so yeah, this meeting comes at a really good time, because this is just all happening now. And so I just recently had the opportunity to share this idea. It's in its infancy, but to share it with NADA, and also to share it with our professional organization here in BC, the ATCMA, one of the organizations, but the ATCMA, who we have the full support of the entire board of the ATCMA, who are willing to interface with the Ministry of Health in terms of advocating for funding or anything else that we might need to do this training. So it's really just like we're at rung one of this, and I'd love if anybody has any interest in this, anybody that wants to get involved, especially from BC or that's got similar work that they've done. That would be really exciting. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
I just wanted to briefly mention I'm the timekeeper for a couple of the presentations. So when you hear these little sounds go off, that's just the agreement that we have with our speakers of just letting them know where they're at. So they are intentional in case it's confusing.
Thank you so much, Laurel, for sharing. I know it was, I watched what was happening in BC this summer from Manitoba and just felt so sort of powerless to do anything, but you have had a really tough summer. I'm next delighted to invite Nadia to share.
Danse. I'm going to keep my timer here too because I tend to get hypersensitive about time. Tanse na dotamek Nadia hul nitsikasen amismati waskaigan otsinia. And my family actually comes from the Northern Treaty 8 territory, originating from the Dunvegan Band, which no longer exists. But most of my family was raised in the Spirit River and St. John area. But today I live with my partner and our blended family of 10 plus 2 little grandbabies in Amiskwati, Waskaigan, otherwise known as Beaver Hills House, and Edmonton in the Treaty 6 territory, so located in Alberta. I'm a registered acupuncturist, and I've been doing that work for 12 years. And I have a focus of my practice on pregnancy, as I'm a birth worker. So I've been doing birth work for 17 years, working with families, doing all the stuff prenatally through birth, postpartum, lactation support, and parenting. And over the last 5 years, on a journey to really discovering my roots, my Nehiyaw roots, I started to focus my work. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool just one day that all my patients are Indigenous and that I could just treat my community and have people accessing that type of care. And so I'm happy that it's slowly, as I build relationship in the community, that I can be somebody that they can come to see for things that we all know acupuncture can help with greatly. As I started to focus my work more into that, my birth work started to focus more into improving access to compassionate care for Indigenous families, and that includes access to Indigenous midwifery. So very similar and parallel to what Laurel's talking about is that my job now with my organization, Indigenous Birth of Alberta, is to bring cultural competency, anti-racism, and highlight all of those things for people who want to work with Indigenous families, but also to our Indigenous families and people and communities, so that we can start to heal our nations through something as simple as bringing babies in. So I started to look into the NADA protocol because I kept seeing people, Acupuncturists Without Borders and the NADA going into all of these places. And I thought, man, I don't need to go anywhere. This is happening right in my backyard, in my communities. I don't need to go to Guatemala, and I don't need to go anywhere. I don't have to wait for the forest fires to happen or any of that stuff. It's happening right here. And so I started to focus my birth work. It just happened gradually. Because the people who need us the most are the people who are without families, who are without maybe healthy natural supports around them. That the more I looked into the NADA and started to see things like the studies done with pregnant people who were struggling with an opioid addiction, getting the NADA protocol done, and how that helped keep their babies with them and help them to shift their lives. And not only that, it was a sustainable model that the people who were getting the treatments done eventually were the ones doing the treatments. And talk about sustainable health. And that's my goal, is to bring, the birth work that I do, but also this acupuncture piece with I call it acupuncture. I know we call it ADS stuff, and I'm getting used to the language and that, because here everything's so restricted with the insertion of needles. And so I'm here to learn, because I need to find a way how to incorporate that, because the barriers that exist for accessing my services are real unless I'm offering them at pro bono. And I would love to be able to focus that and teach people in the communities about how to do this, and the people who are working with Indigenous folks. So I'm right up there with Laurel. I was so excited to hear everything about the work that they're doing, that I'm like all in. And I really look forward to the rest of the day. because as I mentioned in my survey, that I said, I really want to honor the people that were here first, the medicines that were here first, and everything that we had that was taken away from us, that I want to bring this back because I want it to be an opportunity for people to, that's my timer, an opportunity for us to start to heal our people right in my community. So thank you for having me here today.
Oh, thanks so much, Nadia. I'd also like to invite Carrie to share from the East Coast.
Hi, Nin Delawisi Carrie Patlas, Nin Delawin Nidawaganek, Nin Migama, and Eligwit Rising Sun Treatment Center. So in my practice, forgetting about who we are has become a huge threshold for all First Nations people, not just across the whole Canada, but in our region here in Atlantic Canada. I dwell from the Micmac-Maliseet territory, which is encompassant of the Atlantic region, so New Brunswick, Newfoundland, PEI, and Nova Scotia, and parts of Quebec. We all are part of the same Algonquin clan, and learning about who we are. And unfortunately, when you look at settlement, the Atlantic region was settled first. So we are currently, and it's getting better. If you take a statistic of all the people in this area that know their language, it's very low. So when I introduce myself, my name is Carrie Patlas, and I live in Eel Ground First Nation, which is just outside of Miramichi, New Brunswick. I'm a Mi'kmaq. I am a descendant of a residential school survivor, and I work at the Rising Sun Treatment Center here in Eel Ground. We're a 10-bed facility. We've been open since 1988. My job has changed over the years. I've been here since 2003. I moved from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. So Waikagama, Nova Scotia is where I originate from. That's where my family's from. So when I introduce myself, I'll introduce myself as a mother of 2 grown daughters, a grandmother of 2 grandbabies, Bagozi and Sibu. And Bagozi is Mi'kmaq for water lily, and Sibu is Mi'kmaq for a river or brook. My husband's name is Adi Patlas, who is from this community. He is a cultural practitioner. And so I've been learning since I got here that I have to embrace culture, and I need to start finding out who I am. And where my mom was a residential school survivor and my dad is still living, and my dad wasn't a residential school survivor, culture and language is so important right now. And so I'm a practicing elder. I'm learning in the past 18 years, and it's going to take probably a lifetime for me to get where I need to be. So I've been exposed to Sundance, women's teaching, smudge, and I actually practice in I don't know if that's harvest, traditional medicines such as the sweetgrass, golden thread, different medicines, the mint teas, the chaga. And so when I took my training in Fredericton, there was 2 ladies there, can't remember their names offhand, but I was really involved in it. And when I was in the breakout group there, I just told the girls that I experienced acupuncture on my own, and I found out that anxiety, my needle, when she put the needle in the first time, and it was a full body acupuncture, she put the needle in, and the needle flew about 5 feet and hit the wall. So I asked her what needle that was for, and she said it was for my anxiety. And she said, come back next week. So I came back for a period of 5 weeks, and as each of those weeks went by, that needle started dropping a little bit closer, and in the last week, it stayed in my ear. And she goes, there, I think we're done. She said, how's your anxiety level? And I said, wow, I didn't even think of it. I wasn't, the nonverbal part of it is so important right now because a lot of people don't want to talk. And, you know, when you talk about residential school, a lot of people are just not ready to talk about that stuff. And a lot of people say, oh, well, you guys got your money. You got your settlement. My mother died before the 95 cutoff. So our family, there's 9 of us that we didn't receive any money. But I've learned that I have to let that go. And there's a lot of people in the Atlantic region, and probably all across Canada, they don't want the effing money. I'm sorry, my language, but they don't want that money because it's not going to change what happened to them. So yeah, and then so Rising Sun itself has, you know, a 10-bed facility. With COVID, we've had our restrictions. We've been shut down here and there, and now we're revising the center. We used to operate 3-week, 4-week, 5-week programs and have a break in between. So the new management has allowed us to expand and change our program a little bit. And so we're going to extend it to an 8-week program, continuous intake every 2 weeks, and it would rotate. It's going to rotate every 8 weeks. So to me, that's exciting. I get to start practicing acupuncture again and incorporate it into modules so that our clients will be able. So my biggest thing is that I had a lot of clients saying, "Oh, you're Indian. Why the heck are you doing acupuncture?" I say, "Well, listen," and then I'll tell them my story about this needle flying out of my ear and where I was back in 2009 when my anxiety levels are so bad, my depression was so bad that I decided to share that with them, and they understand. The biggest problem I have, I guess, would be them not wanting to take the needles. So I'll incorporate maybe one needle, let them try it out. If they don't like it, fine, I'll put a seed in. But you have to meet them where they're at. Okay, so not everybody's going to be on board with all of this, and that's not a problem. I actually have a travel kit. I take it with me wherever I go. And so the clients that are former clients or even family members that wanted to get involved with acupuncture, I have it with me on ready to go as soon as whenever I walk into an area. Let's see. I think that's about all I covered. The only thing I want to address is maybe talking about intergenerational trauma. I do know that there are some programs out there not readily available, and a lot of people are hesitant in order to give intergenerational trauma training to non-Indigenous people because we feel that we need to carry that trauma and that training ourselves. I agree and disagree at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense, but I like to do the acupuncture. And I remember when I was doing the course with the ladies in Fredericton there that they said, "Oh, don't use drum music. It's too, you know, there's too much in there and it's going to set people off." Actually, in First Nation communities, I actually use chanting music as our background noise, and they love it. I'll even have like whistles or flutes playing, and they will actually enjoy to a point that they enjoy it. And I have smudge going on a continuous basis, and they have the smudge with them. We incorporate the chaga tea. We enjoy the mint tea, which comes from natural herbs from the gardens or in the woods. We take them on meditation walks. I've actually thinking about doing acupuncture outdoors, but heaven knows I might lose the needle, so I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But other than that, that's where I'm at here in the East Coast, and I hope that someday we all get to travel. I heard something yesterday or Thursday when we were doing the check-in meeting about Hawaii. I'm up for it anytime.
Oh, thank you so much, Carrie, for that. I really appreciated listening to some of your personal sharing. I know the impacts of the residential school are conversations that have just started, and they're so important to have and so important for us to listen to. We're going to just take a short 10-minute break and then come back for the rest of our afternoon. So if you want to come back at 1:25, now's a great time to stretch and get yourself something to drink. Thanks so much for such a great morning.
Hope everybody had a good break. Yeah.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm going to just turn the emceeing duties over onto Sarah, and we're going to have some special recognitions now.
Thank you. We're going to begin the first recognition. Okay. We would like to recognize and remember NADA trainer Willow Walker from British Columbia. And to do this, we'd like to share a film made by trainer Charlotte Astier that she made for the 2015 video contest. Please let me know if you don't hear the sound. I think I did share the sound.
I come from a heavy background, growing up in Civil War, Soviet regime, Poland, emigrating through Germany, through Scarborough, Toronto, government housing, the ghetto, the slums, the gangbanging, the abuse, physical abuse by father.
Excuse me, sorry, I just want to turn the volume up.
I come from a heavy background, growing up in Civil War, Soviet regime, Poland, emigrating through Germany, through Scarborough, Toronto, government housing, the ghetto, the slums, the gangbanging, the abuse, physical abuse by father, and just a crazy childhood kind of. At any rate, at age 12, I picked up my first drink, and at the age of 18, I discovered morphine and heroin, and that was the sort of center of my life for the next 19 years of my life. Years ago, I was doing one of those cold turkey withdrawals at home in the winter time on Denman, and Willow would come in the mornings and nighttime, and the only times I would be still through those days is when I had those needles in me. It was a surprise, because I would be screaming, I would be convulsing. And then Willow would come and talk to me a little bit, and as soon as she did nada, I'd be still. I'd be still and be no. You could actually forget for a moment what you're going through. If you have that support, and if you have that everyday treatment and guidance, then you can slowly actually discover yourself for yourself. Now I get to see why I always relapse, why I choose to inflict pain on myself. The first time in many years, I am clean and sober and even off meds. It's almost like taking a toke of a pipe of, I don't know, crack cocaine or crystal methamphetamine or heroin. It's satisfying for me. It's satisfying for me, and if you can get NADA treatment, you're basically sustaining that sanity. You can go on with your day and do everything you need to do without getting high on drugs. Thank you. Thank you, Will. You're welcome.
Charlotte, would you share some words about Willow?
Yeah, sure. So the trailer you see is the place where he finally was doing his clinic, and he was no longer doing NADA groups like he'd been doing for many years in Victoria. And the first time I met him, I was telling him, oh, you know, I'm thinking about acupuncture for social change, but I'm not sure about acupuncture, the acupuncture part. And he said, oh, but come to my place and see and watch. So he offered me to come every day in his clinic and doing observation for a year and a half, and in exchange of some work. So that's how he was very welcoming, and that's how he deals with everyone. So if you could not pay a service, you could do just some exchange and work on the land, or I was helping him with the herbs in my case. And so he had, in the trailer you see his clinics, he had all kind of patients. So some rich people, some upper middle class, lower middle class, and very poor people, and people will pay what they could. So and he was giving all the time the best treatment he could for whoever was his patient. So he was very, very dedicated and very generous with the person. And so while I was observing his work, then you can believe me, I was convinced by the acupuncture part with them. Truly, it was sometimes pure moment of magic. The person just released so many things, and so many things was happening in this little trailer. You cannot imagine. So it was very powerful. When we stick a needle in you, you can feel your chi. That's for sure. And he had also very strict way of life. So a daily routine was woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, doing 2 hours Qigong, and every day 2 days of study. And so in that way, it was very traditional in the Taoist way. And one day he told me, okay, Charlotte, I think it's good. You're doing good observation. Tomorrow I have a patient. You can see on the internet the NADA protocol points, and you'll do it. Okay. So that's how I was introduced with NADA. And then the day he pretended he had some stuff to do with the herbs, and he just let me needle the person. And after that, he told me, so that was a good practice you did. So here is a box of needles. A lot of people need it on this island, so go on. And so he was also a very, very empowering teacher. And yeah, so unfortunately, I cannot fulfill the rest of the training I wanted to do with him. But what I keep from his teaching is something that you don't learn at school, at acupuncture school. It was teaching the true essence of traditional medicine and the true nature of a human being. And so in that way, Willow, I can say that it was a true healer. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's a really beautiful description of him. And what you talk about, kind of his strict training with himself, I feel like that energy really comes through him in the video that you made. He just really has a space of peace that he holds. So anyways, thank you for making that film too, so that we have that as a small slice and record of who he was. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me as I navigate this sharing of slides. And I will move us into the next recognition. This recognition is for Dr. Brian Bailey. And we are very fortunate that he is with us today. Dr. Bailey, NADA would like to recognize you for your 25 years of commitment, innovation, and generosity in the delivery of the NADA protocol through your AccuDestress program. And I would like to invite Daksha Patel to say a few words about working with you and the de-stress program that you founded. Daksha, are you able to unmute? There you are.
Yes. So, should I start? Hello. Yes. So good to see everyone, our Canada NADA family, plus some US people. And Dr. Bailey brought me to NADA. From my own treatment with Dr. Bailey about 20 years ago, I received 15 treatments from Dr. Bailey. And that time I needed it so badly. Somebody sent me to Dr. Brian Bailey, and he said I could not talk for almost more than 2 hours. I was just crying, emotionally was down. And Dr. Bailey said that there is a smile hiding behind those lips. It will come out. And I know that after 15 treatments, and then when he was doing one-on-one counseling, about third session, I was waiting for him, and he was walking to the clinic, and he said, I told you. He said, I told you, because I was standing there and smiling, all those tears went away. And that's where my interest in NADA started. And one day I said, Brian, this is such a good stuff. I like to learn. And he said, you can go to New York or Toronto. And I went to New York to learn. And then Dr. Bailey, I got an opportunity to work with him. And we were putting groups for AccuDetox, AccuDestress afterwards, and had very good success with it. Dr. Bailey, like AccuDetox and AccuDestress, heal bipolar or schizophrenic. And I know one lady, she came with her son in the same building. She used to come to the psychiatrist twice a week and getting a talk therapy for her son, schizophrenic son. And what happened, she saw our group going out laughing and after treatment, and she found out that there is something in this. And she came in the next group for the treatment, and she quit going to the psychiatrist and started a treatment and seeing Dr. Bailey. And many clients, they took opportunity to come to AccuDetox and AccuDestress, and they left their doctor because they became feeling more powerful. And one time I remember that we threw out from one clinic because we were threat to that psychiatrist to take her business away. And we were not trying, the clients were coming and looking for us. So that was success from Dr. Bailey's insight. And
Dr. Bailey, I'm so sorry, Daksha. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to invite Dr. Bailey if you would like to share a few words as well.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
I'm actually quite surprised at receiving this certification or recognition. But what Daksha says is prophetic here, and that is that when we provide people with Smith's 5-point year acupuncture, we actually end treatment for them. They don't need to go back to other people. They don't need to go back to therapists. We had people that had 28, 30 years of psychotherapy, and they didn't need it anymore. And I think that's what all of us need to recognize, that what we're doing here is we're actually replacing part of the system that doesn't work for about 40% of people. 40% of people do not respond to medications or to talk therapy. And Dr. Smith wisely found this out and passed it on to all of us. And I guess in particular, I'd like to say that that there is a movie that was made one day after today, 20 years ago. And that is when Nada and Dr. Smith began to treat the people who escaped the Twin Towers. And I would like to suggest that you all watch it today. If you haven't seen it, what you can do is look, you can Google it, as the name of the movie is Unimagined Bridges. Unimagined Bridges, and then put in Dr. Smith and put in trailer. And there's a 4-minute representation of that movie, which is really good to watch today, because this is really our legacy and what we're doing today. And I'll talk to you later. I have some contribution to make, but thank you so much. And thank you, Daksha.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bailey. We have a couple of more recognitions, so I will advance to the next one. So the next one is for Charlotte Astier. And yay, I'm glad you were surprised for everybody too. So Charlotte, Nada recognize you for your steadfast perseverance and collective leadership approach in opening access to the Nada protocol in Quebec. And I would like to invite Dorothy Spivak to share a few words about Charlotte's work.
Thank you, Sarah, and hello, Charlotte. I started to email with Charlotte when she was at Denman Island with Dr. Willow Walker, as she was speaking before, and it was April the 16th, 2014, that we started emailing and discussing how can we bring the first NADA training to Montreal. And Charlotte and her family returned to Montreal, and we thought, oh, we'll just get it going that autumn of 2014. And we realized very quickly how many challenges there were in Quebec and certainly elsewhere. But we finally did get the training going, and we had the first Montreal training in April the 23rd and 24th of 2015 with the NADA trainer, Laura Cooley, who, by the way, who created the film that Dr. Bailey just talked about, Unimagined Bridges. So I do encourage people to watch that film. It's very powerful. However, back to Charlotte, who is the woman of the moment here. So we had the first training. Charlotte initiated, pilot projects and events after that. And she went on to go to acupuncture school in Montreal. She graduated acupuncture school. She continued to initiate pilot projects and now has become a NADA trainer. And I know, and many people know, that even with all the challenges and obstacles to bring NADA to Quebec, to Montreal, and elsewhere in Canada and US and elsewhere, that Charlotte, with her intelligence, her skills, her energy, her focus, her passion, her determination, and her caring nature, that she will bring NADA to many people as a NADA trainer, and with her many projects to come. And with the Montreal NADA team and the Quebec NADA team, some of whom are here in the Zoom meeting today, she will be a strong force of NADA. So bravo, Charlotte.
Merci.
Would you like to share any words, Charlotte?
Thank you. There's still so much to do, so I'll explain later what is the situation in Quebec, so everyone will understand why it's so difficult. And yeah, we keep on moving. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your work.
Good surprise.
Okay, one more recognition for today. And we would like to recognize Mia Donovan. I think Mia is in the meeting today with us. So Mia, NADA would like to recognize you for creating the documentary film Dope is Death, which has brought depth, dialogue, and greater understanding to the NADA community about the early beginnings of this revolutionary work. Mia, are you here? I don't see.
Can you hear me?
Oh, fantastic. Yes.
Wow, thank you so much. I wasn't expecting this at all.
Well, good. We like to surprise with recognitions. And I just wanted to say personally that we're really grateful for the film that you created, and the impact that it has had on this community, I think, is really huge. And I wanted to just share with everybody, hopefully you've seen in your emails that you have a chance to view the film in Canada through the link available. It's free that way. Otherwise, it is through like a pay service for people in Canada for you to watch. And then this evening, we're going to have a question and answer time with Mia, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, if you can join us. But Mia, we'd love to hear any reflections.
I mean, I'm really happy to be part of this today. I'm originally from Moncton, New Brunswick, and I live in Montreal, so it's great to be more familiar with what's happening in Canada, since the research of the film has been focused on the 70s and in New York, and specifically with the activists prior to 1978. So I look forward to hopefully working with some of you, with Charlotte, on some upcoming outreach screenings. And yeah, this is great. And if anybody hasn't had the chance to view the documentary before the link expires, you can email me and I can send you a link. And yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Mia. That concludes our recognitions, and we're going to move into the next panel. So Kara, back to you.
Oh, thanks. Those are all such inspiring stories. And Mia, I was able to watch the documentary yesterday at work, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And so much of that history I didn't know myself. So it always helps locate sort of our work when we can see where it came from, and make sure that we honor those stories as well. It was really powerful. We're going to move into our time today, where we're going to just share some updates broken down by province. We've got a nice chunk of time, so we'll also invite you to use the chat function if you want to forward any questions to anybody that shares, or if you want to share something from your particular location after we've just gone through the roster. And we'll go geographic from west to east. So where is my sheet? So I would just invite Stephanie from BC to get us started.
Stephanie, you're muted.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Stephanie Legacy, and I'm really passionate about NADA and promoting NADA in BC and Canada. It's a great honor to be here with everyone. Yeah, I don't feel alone. Some days you feel alone in this little journey, but it's gaining really great momentum right now, and I feel really excited this conference came at such a great time. Just this week, I learned of a new contract that I'm going to start starting this week coming, offering NADA twice a week at a new initiative, Coalition Access Hub, put together by a nonprofit organization in Nelson. And I have to say, I'm finally made the way where I'm umbrellaed under someone's budget, which feels like a really big deal. Just to share a little, I wrote some things down so I wouldn't go off on a tangent. I graduated from Chinese medicine school as a registered acupuncturist in 2004. And right away, I started my volunteer work at our local mental health unit, providing free ear acupuncture. There was a great union between the school and mental health, and it was a student practicum when I was a student. So I have volunteered there right up until March 2020 when COVID closed the clinic down. And that was alongside with private treatments, home care, and community acupuncture. During my career, providing accessible, affordable medicine's always been the forefront. And it really came to fruition after my training with Carolyn. Hi, Carolyn. In 2015, I went on to kind of work towards to become a trainer. I had the great fortune of traveling down to Colorado and training with Libby, and that was amazing. And so I, about that point, we took the clinic at Mental Health was always called the Addiction Clinic, and we coined it NADA Circles. And it was kind of at that time where we were leaving the idea of we're treating addictions and we're treating the people. And I really started a mission around town, accessing whoever would let me come in, speak to them, show them NADA, group homes, transition homes, seniors. For about 3-4 years, I just really bustled around. And at the end, I guess kind of early 2020, it was really coming together. I had 6 groups running a week. And NADA kind of had become a common name people were speaking about. So it was really, really awesome. I think we've spoken today about what COVID and the barriers COVID placed. And it's interesting that I realized COVID was kind of, for me, a blessing. I was really overextended as a volunteer. There was not enough of me, and there was no other trained ADSs, and the acupuncturists in my community couldn't afford to do volunteer. They had to put their efforts into making a wage in the private sector. So I took a long break, and then just a great thing happened just this past June, and it reminds me of Michael Smith, who I'd have to say is by far one of my biggest mentors in my career. When he spoke to us about the ADS training, about being a good farmer, and how a good farmer does not plant seeds in the fall and dig them up quickly when nothing has sprouted. And, he's speaking of someone moving through trauma, but it's also for all of us just to learn about trust. And in June, I was asked back to one of the transition homes to start groups outside, and I've been there every week since. And then along came this opportunity through this new coalition to work with NADA twice a week. And it actually is a coalition of all the groups that I had volunteered at over the last 5 years. And to see it come together like that was just, I'm kind of just, I think I'm in shock still, because it's just so exciting to start the work again. So what's happened even this week is 4 or 5 acupuncturists have reached out, and they're like, I want to be a part of it. So I just feel this great momentum happening in Nelson, and finding old clients. I think I saw 6 clients this week on the street that are excited to come back. So it's just like, yay. I just want to ask fellow ADS out in the world here today, just to help me with my barriers I have right now. And One is training in BC, and we spoke about that at the beginning. How can we change the regulatory bodies to include more than acupuncturists? Yeah, I've reached out to nursing and social work colleges, but I just haven't got responses. So not a lot of headway there. And then during COVID, it seems like all discussion stopped. So I would really love it to extend past acupuncturists. I don't think I have enough time in my life to train enough people in NADA. I think everyone should have NADA. It's so great. And then the one thing is my ideas around how can we train ADSs in the Chinese medicine schools. I did propose one to our school here in Nelson. But unfortunately, I think the curriculum's so rooted in traditional Chinese medicine that they're not ready to kind of reevaluate their, it just hasn't made any headway. So if that's happened in other provinces where the ADS program has been integrated in the school system, I think it's just a great way to have 6-10 students come out each year as ADS trained. So yeah, any input from that, from anyone, I would love. And then the funding barrier. I think all of us know we volunteer a lot for the NADA, and you know, that's what happened during COVID. Was I'm always happy to volunteer, but what I saw was the program wasn't going to be sustainable. So we need many people doing the NADA because there's many people who need it. The need is so high right now. And so it was really great to be a part of this nonprofit group. But what I'd really like to see is, can we get into the interior health system? And it was great with the breakout meetings speaking to Brian, because it is happening elsewhere in BC. So we need to get connected on that piece. But one thing I keep thinking—
Stephanie, just 15 more seconds.
Okay, I have, you know, many treatments, but the return intake from clients, it's like, can we study it in a way where it really shows the efficacy of NADA? Because it's always the same. People get such great results from the NADA. And the way I'm asking the questions right now, I'm not getting the data to prove to kind of the mainstream health system that this is a very viable treatment in our mental health. Yeah, so I'm so grateful to be back practicing NADA. I'm just reminded the incredible power in the nonverbal space we hold. And I'm looking forward to any input from any of you out there on these areas. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, thanks so much, Stephanie. I love the mission statement of a safe and supported space to allow the nervous system to calm. That's a beautiful descriptor in your circle. Next, I'd like to invite Treya from Alberta.
Here we are. Hello, everyone. I'm Treya. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, and this here is Ziggy Z. She's my new little Miki baby, and I'll put her down, but hello. Okay, because I could talk about her all day. So what I'm gonna discuss here is what we did in Alberta during 2013, 2014. I prepared some slides because I can talk all day when nervous. So as we go here, this is a slide about YARP from 2013 to 2014. It was a Southern Alberta NADA relief project. And so I'm gonna start there, and then I'm gonna continue on to Yelp. What are some present day challenges here for getting NADA into the communities? And I can tell you a bit about my struggles. So we'll go to the next slide. So in June 20th, 2013, Southern Alberta experienced a heavy rainfall that triggered catastrophic flooding in the area's main rivers. This left the city of Calgary and 9 surrounding towns and nations in a state of emergency. 100,000 people were quickly evacuated throughout the region. 13,000 residents of High River were mandatorily evacuated. 150 people were rescued from the rooftops of their homes. In Siksika Nation, they evacuated 1,000 people. All in all, 5 people were reported confirmed dead as a direct result of the floods. I think we're seeing the post-traumatic stress on these communities affecting mental health, but that hasn't been documented yet. But also, you know, numerous pets were lost and wildlife, and so it was really devastating, and it was one of Canada's costliest disasters in Canadian history, if you want to put a number on it. But next slide. So what is YARP? Okay, what is that? So in a matter of days after the flood, the YYC Acupuncture Relief Project, YARP, was created by a core team of 9 NADA-trained professionals. And I was one of the members, and we kind of immediately set out to the various regions and offered free NADA treatments to the distressed populations. Next slide, please. So what we did is we offered mobile units. So we went into like what was kind of the ground zero in, why am I forgetting the name? High River, and set up tents and the mobile unit. And then in some places like Bowness and other regions, they had indoor space for us. But when they didn't, we set up in markets, farmers markets. In the wintertime, we got into the Settlebrook temporary residences that were basically ATCO trailers for the people in High River who were left without homes. And we stayed there kind of the longest in High River and offered weekly treatments for NADA. So I know some of you have been talking about creating mobile acupuncture clinics. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we did and how we did it. And I will play a brief portion of the video I created. But so the tools we used was 3 pop-up tents. One was enclosed, kind of with the flooring and everything. The other was just kind of open air, and we bought it from Canadian Tire. So the needles we used were the Tiwa detox needles, size 0.16, 7mm gauge, 0.3 thickness. And we decided on these because they're kind of packaged into detox needles, but also they had the thick pink handle. So if a needle was dropped, we could easily spot it. Then we had alcohol swabs. And when we were out in the market, well, there are some regulations that you needed a hand washing station. So we got a portable hand washing station from Canadian Tire, and that worked to get through that barrier. And then we had folding lawn chairs set out, and then we used a Rubbermaid container to hold all the items like forms, consent forms, pens, emergency kit with Band-Aids, water, wipes, cotton balls, rubber gloves, paper towels. And then we got a big laminated poster of kind of NADA and the ear diagram. And we had posters made for free acu stress relief.
Shreya, we're just in the last 30 seconds, so I don't know that we'll be able to show the video.
Okay.
But I just want to give you that heads up so that we can, so
Okay.
you know.
That went so fast. Okay, so you can go back to this later. And so the next slide.
Oops, whoa, how'd that happen? 1 second, sorry.
So we'll have a link to the video, but there's one link that I want to show you. We went into Siksika Nation during the annual powwow, and we set up a tent there, and it was so well received. And so my idea, or a great idea, would be to set up a team of mobile acupuncturists, preferably from the Indigenous First Nations, have them trained and go in to follow the powwow circuit. Next slide, please. And so I did a NADA video of the year in 2016. And so you can watch it when you have more time. And it shows our setup and everything and all the communities we visited, but time won't allow it. So next video, next slide, please.
I don't know, where's his? There we go.
There it is. So this is the morning of the powwow, it's just Siksika Nation. So if you want to press play.
I'm not sure that we can do it very, very brief, okay?
It's just a 30-second thing.
Oh, okay.
So that was our little tent there. And later on in the day, we had open air tents. That's our hand washing station. But it was packed during the whole couple days we were there. And so that's my idea there. And I'll just go to the last slide if we can.
That was the last slide that I got.
Okay, well then the next slide would have been Yelp. There's so many regulations for acupuncturists here in Alberta, and we basically have to be acupuncturists and going to college for 3 years and taking those grueling licensing exams. They're not for everyone. And I went to acupuncture college. I went for 3 years. I did the work. I've treated thousands of people with NADA, but because I didn't pass a licensing exam after attempting 3 tries, I don't know why the universe kind of kicked me in the butt, but it did. I can't practice. And I went into acupuncture just wanting to do NADA and set up NADA clinics. And so I don't know how we can go from here. Like somebody who's gone to acupuncture college and does the training, has the clean needle technique and has done the course and done all on the ground work in the field, why someone like me couldn't practice. Like, and I'm just like someone that should be practicing, but there's so many others that are unable to, and they would be great additions to this. And if we can all join together and somehow change the laws or change the acupuncture licensing regulations, because something's got to give here, because it's the way it's structured now, it's not working and people are suffering because of this. And with the NADA YARP project, we treated like over 2,300 people in a year and had amazing results. And like others have addressed the issues, this is my little 2 cents. And I hope you watch the video later. I'm sorry the last 2 slides didn't work. They were appropriately mentioned Yelp. So yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Treya. I see that the links to your videos have popped up in the chat, so we'll be able to watch them all later. I'll pass it on to myself now. So I'll invite myself to share. And I don't have much to share, but I want to recognize just the impact that regulations and barriers have on practicing. And I work at a community health center in Winnipeg. And the way that we've most consistently used NADA is really tried to make it as barrier-free as possible. So we have sort of public offerings of circle time. And as long as people fill out a registration form, so we know their name and address and phone number, just in case there is some sort of adverse event. If they aren't a client of our clinic, we don't register them into our system, but we keep that paperwork just separate and confidential just to respect people's privacy. Because we want to make it, we want to make it just as simple for people to come in. There are so many catchment areas and criteria for any sort of mental or sort of physical health services to be able to offer NADA just as the most welcoming, barrier-free, no-cost service is really, really important. We do it very minimally like that. So all of the work that you're sharing about your outreach is so inspiring. Manitoba had really strict restrictions, so we didn't pause. That's such a gentle way to talk about what COVID did. We ground to a complete halt. But had a meeting yesterday with our new acting executive director to talk about acupuncture because it's the one group that we want to get people back in the building for before any of the other groups that we have. We work in a downtown community now, and there's just such a need of homelessness, addictions, trauma, poverty, all of those social determinants of health that we're really familiar with. To be able to have folks come and just be cared for in such a gentle way is so important to us. And the ED has given us permission to start practicing with each other. And I also really respect and value that she is wanting to give something back to the staff who have had to work so hard as everyone here has. And we're all keen to get sort of just that feeling of needles back into our fingertips, and want to make sure that we're ready and prepared to do that with guests, which is what I've always called clients that come for acupuncture, is our guest time. The other thing that she's given me permission for is to start some conversation with a new organization across the street. An Indigenous organization called Garniginichik has, during the pandemic, opened a safe house called Velma's House. So it's not a shelter, it's just a safe place for women to go to. It's intended to be 24 hours, but it isn't just yet. And I think that's, again, such a nice place to start offering acupuncture where people need to, feel calm and settled. And also, me going to them rather than them having to come to clinic, I think is also a really democratic way to offer it. So by this time next year, if we have a meeting, hopefully I'll have some different things to say. Right now, they're all just ideas. So I'll keep my comments no more than that. And would invite Dr. Bailey to share what's happening in Ontario.
Dr. Bailey, you're still muted.
It doesn't. Oh, how's that?
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. So in 1990, I say often have said by mistake, to attend the first time that Dr. Smith came to Canada in Toronto in 1990, as he said. I'd been practicing acupuncture since 1976, and I had a practice that was quite unusual. Half of my practice was acupuncture, and half of my practice was psychotherapy. And they never met with each other until I met Dr. Smith. But the big thing about meeting Dr. Smith was he told me right away that the patients that I was struggling with, and I was struggling, I was very good at doing talk therapy until I started to deal with more complex cases. Dr. Smith simply told me, hey, your patients are addicted. They may not be substance addicted, but they're addicted. And I had to make the decision between continuing to do talk therapy and to do his work. And it took me 5 years to actually jump off the bandwagon I was already on and start doing what eventually became called acute stress. But what happened was that Dr. Smith also altered things in his own life when it came to 9/11. Interestingly enough, 20 years ago today, he actually recognized that it was necessary to open his clinic, and particularly the clinic at St. Vincent's Hospital, to the people who were streaming out of the Twin Towers. And I hope that all of you know that 2 years later, there was a study that showed that of all of the treatments that were offered to people in New York City at the time, acupuncture was the top succeeder. And another thing that's probably not known very well is that this was responsible for there being very little PTSD in New York City afterwards. New York City actually prospered and thrived, probably as a result of Dr. Smith's work. So one of the things that happened over the years is that we began to notice that the people that we were seeing were people who had been in long-term psychotherapy, as many as 25 to 30 years of it, and they hadn't gotten anywhere, or they were put on medications and they didn't get anywhere. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case with everybody. I'm saying it is the case with about 40% of people in the system, the people that we're really dealing with. And of course, we know that what we are doing with 5-point acupuncture works. It works in spades. Dr. Smith was telling at the time that that his success rate with substance addiction was 85%. And that was a very difficult figure to meet. And we didn't, for the longest time, come anywhere near 85% when we were dealing with people that were not substance addicted. But eventually we began to add things, and we added a lot of things over time that didn't break the rules that he had about not doing talk therapy, but were additions of a training nature. And one of the things that we noticed was that we were seeing more people with a trait called alexithymia. Now, alexithymia is the acquired inability to know how you feel yourself or how other people feel around you. Or in addition to that, because of those two things, to not be able to have creative ideas about what to do next. So I quickly saw that that the acupuncture made a difference with that, but we were still having the difficulty that at least 6 out of 10 people that we saw had PTSD. I mean, the problems that we people who are dealing with people with the NADA protocol is that they are the tougher end of the spectrum to treat. And so what happened was that I had a colleague who I was training to do what I was doing, and he told me that he had had a very good success with HeartMath's neurobiofeedback program, which is called EM-Wave 2. Now, I don't know if any of you know about EM-Wave 2, but anybody can buy one. The thing about it is, thank you. So this is what it looks like. It's a little device that hooks into a computer. And what you do with it is that you simply watch the screen. The screen is down below, and the screen either shows you a red or a blue or a green color. And as you look at it and you watch it, you find that what you're attempting to do is make it to be green as much as you can. What we found was that when we were treating people, and when I say treating people at exactly the same time. These were people with pins in their ears, and when they used EM-Wave 2, they, in 5 days, would get rid of their alexithymia.
Dr. Bailey, just one more minute.
Are we at 4 minutes?
We're at 6 minutes, actually.
Oh, okay. So I just, to finish off, I would just like to tell you that there's a handout that would allow you to learn about EM Wave 2. And also, I have written, or I'm in the process of writing a book called You Ought to Have Your Head Read. And really it is about the work that we're doing together. And this is going to be made available to everybody that's on the broadcast today. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Bailey. Next, I will pass the baton to Charlotte from Quebec.
Bonjour tout le monde. When I often explain the situation in Quebec, usually nobody believes me. They just say, "Oh, she doesn't speak very good English. I may not understand what she said." Because the issue that we got here is not for non-acupuncturists practicing NADA. Actually, the issue is for acupuncturists practicing NADA. So as, you see, people are, what? How could that happen? This is a very unique situation in North America and maybe in the whole world. But as Dorothy said, when we start to meet, I was coming back from BC and we started to organize with Dorothy many years ago. And then we gathered with some acupuncturists and they told us, no, this is no way, because group sitting acupuncture is not permitted. So this is the context here. We have the opportunity to have one public school. So we have one acupuncture school, which is public, financed by the Ministry of, le ministère de l'Éducation. So this is one good thing we have here, because we can have 3 years teaching with no heavy fees as you have everywhere else. But we also have a professional order which exists since the 80s, and it is very well structured and regulated. And so they thought about acupuncture as one-on-one treatment setting. So I won't go in details, like specific details of the regulation and what we fight for, and it's more a gray zone, but our professional order have a lot of power, and the previous experience to have group setting as acupuncture have failed, and we don't even have community acupuncture clinics going on in Quebec. So that's the context. And what do you do with that? I mean, yesterday we were watching all together, because we are a crew now. All together we were watching the Mia Donovan movie, and we were seeing all this civil disobedience, and we were like, wow. But here this strategy wasn't relevant. So we've been working all together for a long-term strategy, and we've been first trying to find some allies and letting know all the acupuncture community about what was going on outside. So a lot of conference, a lot of writings, and getting some supports. So we had one of the best support we had first is with the Association of the Acupuncturists of Quebec, and the previous president was Julie Dorval, who is now here. So Julie, we've been working very hard all together. She said, yeah, this is a good fight we have to support. And so she did a lot of work of lobbying with the order and little by little, we started to have more openness. Yeah. Sorry for my English. And now, well, a lot of things happened. Huh? It's been a while. So now we have the support of the School of Acupuncture. They offer one NADA clinic each winter. And even if it's not regulated yet, so all the teachers of the school support the cause. We have also, now we are working in the association, and Patrick, who is the president, is doing a very amazing job with the relationship with the order. And so we've been doing work with a pilot project. So we said we're going to try some clinic and then we'll see what will happen. And happened what happened. Nobody had troubles or anything. So we could have proof that it was safe, it was needed, it was, we need to adapt the acupuncture to the people we serve. And so now we are close to some recognition.
One more minute.
That's
One more minute.
Okay, so we have one pilot project going on with the Native Women Shelter of Montreal. We have one in Trois-Rivières, and another one with the hospital will reopen soon. And we have this opportunity to do any clinics with the Regroupement des Ressources Alternatives du Québec, which is a huge organization of 100 community centers, so in which we can develop pilot project anytime. Meanwhile, we will still work on the details for fully recognized regulation for NADA to be practiced.
Thanks so much, Charlotte, for sharing what's happening in Quebec. I think Sarah's going to now play a video that's been submitted from Heather, who's working out of Nova Scotia.
Yes. Just 1 second so that I share this correctly. I wanted to add, I don't know if videos are showing up for people okay, or maybe not such a great resolution, but to optimize it for everybody, it might be useful. This is just a couple of minutes, but it might be useful if you turn off your video, just so that we can optimize the ability for everybody to see this stream correctly.
Hi there, my name is Heather Alexis Porter, and I'm from Nova Scotia, Canada, and I practice NADA at a 28-day addiction center called the Crosby House. The Crosby House has had its doors open since 1978, and I've been there at Crosby House for over 11 years. On Mondays, our clients experience the NADA sessions as part of the programming at Crosby House. Our clients really look forward to these sessions, finding these sessions an effective way to feel calm and balanced as they navigate their recovery at Crosby House. In the past, NADA was offered in a hospital setting with addiction services. Unfortunately, with restructuring, these NADA sessions were dropped. Recently, we've had an election and there's been a special minister formed for mental health and addiction. So who knows, maybe NADA will be brought back. Along with what I do at the Crosby House, I have my own private practice of massage therapy. And originally when I studied NADA, that was the reason, that's what brought me to NADA, was I thought, well, this would be so easy to incorporate with my massage therapy sessions. I could just put these needles in people's ears while they had their massage and do two things at once. And it's been super beneficial, and people really enjoy it and often ask for it in difficult times in their life. But especially now, it's been so great to be able to offer this service during pandemic times. So I'm so glad to be able to offer this, and yeah.
Oh, that was fantastic. It's nice to be able to still have people's words come through with video. There's some parts about Zoom that's kind of lovely. I think we have another video submission from Fabienne from Yukon.
Yes. I need an extra second to show that one because I couldn't get it into the presentation, but actually, here we go. Sound.
Hello, NADA crew. My name is Fabienne Calvert-Filto, and I am a registered acupuncturist living in Whitehorse, Yukon Territory, Canada. So I'm way up north. I'm a NADA member, but I've never actually done a NADA training. I'm very keen on kind of the philosophical and political principles behind NADA, and yeah, use the protocol a lot in my private practice. So just a little bit of rundown on me. I've been practicing and living in Whitehorse since 2019, graduated in 2018, and the past few years have been primarily one-on-one private practice for me. Though I came to acupuncture from a background in sort of frontline social support work and a desire to bring it into the community more. COVID happened and here I am. One-on-one felt much more feasible than sort of launching something bigger. So I joined the NADA, I got a NADA membership with the intention of expanding my practice, and so far that hasn't happened. So I guess just to answer some of Dorothy's questions here, I have not run any NADA programs. I did do a 1 week, I had funding from the Selkirk First Nation in Pelly Crossing and worked there for a week, definitely doing community style acupuncture, in which I use the protocol a lot. My plans for the future, I would ultimately love to maintain some element of my private practice, while also bringing acupuncture into the smaller and more remote communities in the north, where there are really no acupuncture services available. And I'd also like to ultimately create a community acupuncture clinic here in Whitehorse that is either perhaps partially funded so that kind of the most vulnerable members of the population here could access services free of charge, but also could kind of follow something of a POC model. So kind of I have multi-tiered dreams and visions for the future. I'd also love to become a trainer. I think actually in the north that's one of the best, it would be one of the best ways to sort of kind of spread the beauty of poking people, because if I could become a trainer, I could go to some of the more remote communities, train people in the 5-point protocol, and then it could be done there in communities by community members and other health professionals. Something that is sort of a blessing in a way in this sense in being in the north is that though I maintain licensure through the regulatory body in BC, as all of the other practitioners here do as well, acupuncture is not regulated in the Yukon, so we're an unregulated profession. along with midwifery and a bunch of other unregulated professions. So the good loophole about that is that if various support workers do a NADA training here, they can then go ahead and poke people. Yeah, so I think that's cool. I'm pro-regulation, but I think that that's cool. Yeah, I guess that's kind of all I have to say. Feel free to be in touch if you have any ideas or advice, or just want to reach out. And grateful to be able to share a little bit, yeah, in this meeting today. I should say too, I missed that. Yeah, I'm living on the territory of the Kwanlin First Nation and the Ta'an Kwachan Council. Okay, take care.
Oh, fantastic. So we'll send some thanks to Fabienne for submitting that. And then I think I just have some brief comments to read from Allison, who is coming from the Northwest Territories. And we're going to end up being beautifully on schedule still, but we won't have time for questions and answers. But I've noticed that there's been lots of sort of lively action on the chat, so that's great. Allison Rue shares, "Hi everyone, my name is Allison Rue. Unfortunately, I am unable to join you for Saturday's meeting. Instead, I'm providing this brief write-up about my experience with NADA work in the Northwest Territories, more specifically in the 2 communities and regions where I have worked. I'm living in a yurt for a few months. Holy! It's a very wet day today, and while a yurt is the best place to be when it's raining, the sound is amazing. The lighting and sound may not be so ideal for a recording. I was trained in the NADA protocol in Nova Scotia in 2009 or 10. I moved north for the first time in May 2011. I spent the next 3.5 years in the remote fly-in First Nations community of Deline as the community counselor. Deline's, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that community name properly, sits on Great Bear Lake, one of the largest lakes in the world. It has a population of about 500. 95 to 98% is Dene. It took 18 months, but I finally received permission to run acupuncture clinics. I offered these twice a week. On occasion, I was asked to go to other remote communities in that region. I always took needles with me. On 2 occasions, I was asked to provide support in communities which had experienced a sudden traumatic death. On both of those occasions, I took needles with me and was able to offer clinics. One in particular was very well received. If memory serves me correct, 60 to 80 people over 2 days. I moved back to Nova Scotia in August 2014. Over the next 4 years, I returned on brief contracts again to Deline and other communities in the region, often taking needles with me. In my early days, while I was waiting for permission to run clinics, I heard that in the community of Fort Smith, the most southerly community in the Northwest Territories, the mental health and addictions counseling team and others from different departments were receiving NADA protocol training. In January 2019, after 4 years back in Nova Scotia, I returned to the Northwest Territories, this time working at the fort. By this time, there were only 2 people of the originally trained group remaining. They were delighted when I joined the team and could help out. We offered clinics twice a week and also offered treatments during individual counseling sessions. Not surprisingly, our clinics were suspended due to COVID lockdowns. Eventually, we offered individual treatments once we were able to see clients in person. I was able to start clinics up again, adhering to masking and distancing guidelines in April. However, in June, I resigned. I am now back in Nova Scotia. I arrived 6 weeks ago. There remain 2 NADA trained counselors in Fort Smith. one of whom incorporates ear acupuncture treatments into individual sessions. Possibly the other counselor does too. I'm not sure. The group clinics have not resumed to my knowledge. I don't know of any other. I don't know if anywhere else in the Northwest Territories that acupuncture is offered. I suspect the only remaining practitioners are now in Fort Smith. I'll leave it at that and wish you all the best for your day-long meeting. Bye for now.
Kara, I had one thing I wanted to additionally share that just came in this morning to us.
Oh, perfect.
I think we'll have just enough time for that. And then we will follow it with a 5-minute break. This is coming from a woman named Pam Rogers, who was one of the founders of a program actually in Thailand called the DARE Network. She herself is from Toronto. What I'm going to read is an excerpt of an article that she's writing for Guide Points right now about what's happened there. And just as a fellow Canadian, I wanted to share with you some international work that's happening. So Pam writes, as you are likely all aware, February 1st, 2021, the military junta of Myanmar staged a coup ousting the newly re-elected government of the National League for Democracy and imprisoning its leaders, including Aung San Suu Kyi, state councillor. What happened next surprised the coup makers. The people of Myanmar rose up. Led by doctors and teachers, people took to the street in protest. Government workers all went on strike and left their jobs. Banks closed. The ethnic people throughout Myanmar also stood up. The ceasefire agreements had long been breached. The ethnic armies defended their people. The coup makers' response to this resistance was to bomb unarmed civilians, resulting in the displacement of 100,000 ethnic people throughout the country. Their homes destroyed, their livestock stolen, and their rice fields unplowed. They face mass starvation. At DARE Network, we are able to continue our addiction work in the refugee camps on the Thai side of the border. Our work inside Karen State continued up until recently when it became too dangerous for our workers. Some of them we returned to the refugee camps where their families live, and others to villages inside Karen State from where they come. Some of our brave workers chose to stay on at our DARE Center to manage our property and to treat anyone in the area who feels they want to stop using drugs and alcohol. We will continue to support these folks with food and supplies. For the internally displaced people along the Thai-Burma border, DARE Network has joined with 5 other community-based organizations to coordinate food, shelter, and medicine supplies. Negotiating with Thai authorities for permission to take the many donations of such that have come for the IDPs, our people have managed to get support across the Salaween River to the Karen people hiding in the jungles. This is something neither the UN nor the international organizations have been able to accomplish. Our staff are working hard to help their own people. Our DARE Center inside Karen State, being so remote, managed to keep clear of the virus so that we could continue our treatment of people in need of our services, including the NADA protocol. If you are interested in making an emergency donation to these efforts, please do so here and leave a message designating it as such. We will ensure that it reaches the people in need during this emergency. So hopefully in the next month or so, you'll see the full story in Guide Points. And there's also in the last decade, we've, I think, put out a couple of stories and issues about the work of the DARE Network. I think now we are ready for a 5-minute break, and then we're entering into the last phase of our meeting. So do what you need to do, and we'll have some more music playing for you.
So just in the last 10 minutes, what we wanted to do is kind of talk about, or at least even brainstorming some ideas of, what's next basically for us Canadians over here. There's so much going on, obviously today, even in the small breakout groups we were talking about, even just looking at the stats and how many people are members or trainers, but haven't been practicing or are wanting to practice. So we just want to, use the next 10 minutes to maybe talk about, ways that we can cast vision. For example, do we want to continue meeting annually? Would it be beneficial to hold something in 2 months time that, we come together and we just kind of do an informal brainstorming discussion? Would it be helpful if we do, in different areas or provinces? So we just want to take this time. If you do have any ideas, we just invite you to type them into the chat. And then Tahina will just kind of post some of the ideas that are going on. So if anybody has kind of, some thoughts, desires, that they would like to share, then by all means, go ahead. You can also take the platform right now as well if you want to, but if not, just type it in there and we'll post it on the notes. So Laura was saying regional networks. Yeah. Yes, and I think we determined in the chat that Pascal's gonna gather all of the emails so that we can all stay connected. I think that's a great thing. Legislative Professional Advocacy Team. That's from Katura. Hi, Katura. Recognition for ads at a Canadian level. Rachel said regional networks for sure. I think right now there are many of us doing things so differently and individually. Absolutely. So just maybe connecting per region. Do you guys find it's beneficial to meet annually like this? I personally would say yes.
Yes.
Okay. I think a lot of people, I think annual meeting, I think is beneficial for sure.
Especially with the ease that Zoom makes it. I know sometimes it's super costly to even fly across Canada to different areas. So this was definitely fit in my budget.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And feel free to unmute if you want to, speak if your brain is working faster than you can type.
Also, I missed Katura's suggestion.
Katura had said legislative and professional advocacy team, which I think would be great, like just specifically for Canadians, right? Like just to really focus on what we can do in next steps, help out our people in Alberta and Quebec. Shared document database includes best practices, anything else we can use for funding and advocacy. Absolutely.
Julie.
I can't remember who said it, but mentioned, even having, maybe it was Stephanie, but just having more like robust, like the studies, ways that we can make, or show that the efficacy of NADA. So maybe it is kind of brainstorming all together what that would look like.
One thing I think too, hi everyone, I'm Rachel. What I think too is that like, as an acupuncturist, people really don't understand like how NADA fits in. Like people have kind of heard about it. I spent a lot of time explaining. So I think it might be cool if NADA had like a poster of sort of almost like acupuncture. And these are the different ways that you can get it. You can get it privately. You can get it at a community health center if there's someone there. Like I think it's just now that it's emerging as a medicine people are curious about, it's like a nice visual that can sort of be shared among practitioners to place NADA in the field,
Yeah, that's oh, sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. Katura? Yep.
Yes. My, in my history of trying to change things legislatively and as far as regulations are concerned, and the importance of educating licensed acupuncturists about the NADA protocol, but more importantly, that we are really preparing people to be more open to individual acupuncture treatment. I think that them not really understanding behavioral health and what that NADA is an adjunct to behavioral health, that it's not to replace anything. It's not to take away from anything. It really is to enhance the work that we're doing, because we would like to, encourage our clients to go to see acupuncturists and chiropractors and other natural holistic health workers, because 9 times out of 10, you won't be in a pharmaceutically based treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, part of the, our desire as far as supporting recovery. But we need the advocacy. We need to find, those of you that are licensed acupuncturists and NADA trainers, you can be our voice. You can be that person in the room to try to educate your colleagues. We have the same problem in the US in many states that, have a serious licensed acupuncturist lobby that doesn't permit NADA to do what we know that we can do, particularly in the times we're in now. People don't want to be an individual anything. At this point in time, they've been isolated and quarantined. So when we can offer something that is safe and in a group setting that doesn't even require them to speak, but just to enjoy the chi of another human being, those are the kind of, that's the kind of education I think that the licensed acupuncturists may need to understand, is that this is an adjunct to behavioral health. They don't do normally they aren't educated to do behavioral health treatment, but this is what NADA is about. It's an adjunct to those of us that are professionals in the behavioral health field that would love to, just by the mere exposure of NADA, I have sent clients to chiropractors and sent clients to full body acupuncturists.
Sorry to interrupt, Keturah. We just have about a few minutes left, and I just don't want to miss out on the last. We're going over time.
Okay, I'm good. Be our advocate. Be our voice.
Always, I always love hearing you, Keturah, and I agree with you. Some on similar lines of marketing and being able to advocate and education, the capacity building, especially with the acupuncturists. So for sure. Tina, I know there's tons of people typing in the chat. I don't know if you can see all of the points there, but I'll just name a few and then I will wrap up and pass it off. But some people were talking about, educate NADA as a bridge, guidelines for online training for didactic. So anything online and virtual, I think we definitely need some guide points and protocols for that. The mobile NADA units, also a great mention. So these are all really great suggestions, guys. Continue to just type them in as we wrap up the last minute, and we will, of course, this is all recorded, so we'll be able to kind of, I assume when we send everything out, we'll be able to have kind of a wrap up of a lot of these brainstorming ideas. So, and of course, you guys can reach out to the office and just keep sending more ideas there if you guys have any, and we'll go from there. I will pass it back to Sarah or Kara, whoever is going next.